it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. The director's track record, the talent involved in the film, the idea behind it, the promise of horror and practical effects, this formula, this puzzle, it all supposed to line up, and then what happened?
Don't you lay a hand on her.
And today we have Wolfman. Here's the thing, I already get nervous when it comes to those early year horror films. Saying hit or miss is being generous. I'm not saying we never ever get a good early year horror film. I just reviewed Hard Eyes recently, and that was, it's Valentine's Day, and that was really good, alright? Wolfman is the latest venture into adapting that horror IP into a cinematic context, right? I think the most recent one before this was, I think I have it on my shelf here, actually. Yeah, I got it right here. Technically, it was The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins. This film here may honestly have the record for most jump scares, most obnoxious jump scares, and highest amount in quantity that I have ever seen in a movie, period. But damn, is it fun. You can go back further and see actual heralded cult classics like An American Werewolf in London. I recently saw, funny enough, not Ginger Snaps 1, but Ginger Snaps 2. Werewolves are always prevalent. I like the idea. I love the game 1886. I know that's more like lichens, like lycanthropy, basically, but I thought that was sick. Director is a Leigh Whannell. This is his fourth feature film. This man directed, as it says in the trailers, The Invisible Man, which is fantastic, by the way. But even before that, he did Upgrade.
Upgrades, people, upgrades.
He did Upgrade. If you haven't heard of it, it's worth it. And then, like I said, star power, Christopher Abbott, who, if you don't know him, my God, I think he's one of the most underrated actors currently in Hollywood. First saw him as his role in Possessor by Brandon Cronenberg, who is the infamous David Cronenberg's son. And then he even had a sizable role toward the end of Poor Things. But he was great in Poor Things as well. All I'm saying is Christopher Abbott's a great actor when given proper material, not Craven the Hunter. When given proper material, we'll get there. I really like Julia Garner over here. Julia Garner, like definitely Ozark for sure, is where I think most people would recognize her from. Bit of a deeper cut, I liked her role in Maniac as well. If you haven't seen Maniac, that was a good one. Kind of was popular for a couple weeks and everybody forgot about it, but I didn't forget.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
We have to be positive before we get to the negatives, right? And I'm a big horror guy. Horror very damn well maybe my favorite genre in films. I think critics have been trashing this movie. IGN certainly didn't do it any favors, but I will give it its day in court, and I'll tell you right now where this film does succeed. Any film, especially when it comes to horror, if your film has practical effects, it immediately gets a star in my book, a point on the rating scale, and there are definitely a plethora of practical effects during and throughout the process of this this man-to-wolf transformation, for sure. And elements of the transformation are cool. I don't know if I can recommend watching this movie, so I don't really mind spoiling some things that happen in it, because I at the end of the day, I wouldn't say to really watch it unless you're really, really wanting to watch it. Elements of the transformation, such as the fact that as he is becoming more wolf than man, more creature, as it were, his brain chemistry is changing, and so a breakdown of the human elements of that comes with it. And in doing so, he starts to slowly not understand, like, human dialogue.
Can you understand me? You're scaring me.
The idea of being in his shoes mentally, in that headspace, knowing that you're changing, you feel wrong, you feel sick, these new senses are emerging, and part of that is your old senses are going. The elements that make this a horror Wolfman transformation, I think that's what shines in this movie. And then, of course, the wolf vision, which gets progressively more upside down, a la Stranger Things, kind of cheesy. To their credit, by golly, Abbott and Garner are, respectively, they are trying. I stand by this. They're both very talented actors, like 100%. The film does have some creepy scenes on occasions. And you know what? I put right here some very pretty nature shots. Yes, when they're out in the woods and looking at, you know, the forest or the rivers, or there's like one scene with a nice mountain pass. There's pretty HD nature shots. Those are always nice. Cons, what went wrong? 100% the writing. Man, it hurts. The directing, for the most part, is fine. It's nothing extraordinary, which is also a little bit disappointing. But the writing is just not good. I wanted to be invested in these characters and our husband and wife who are trying to make sure their marriage, their family unit stays together, but they both have their share of issues. You know, you have the husband who, through flashbacks we see, or mainly the cold open flashback, we see his father, though his father loved him, was one of those severe fathers. I yelled to get my point across and wanted him to be aware of the dangers of the world, but through low-key toxic masculinity. You could tell he probably had it worse from his father, and maybe it softened over the years, but still, our main character's father was no cup of tea. He was a survivalist and a paranoid one who knew there was something out in the woods and wasn't wrong about that, but the way he went about parenting and trying to take care of business was, at the end of the day, the downfall for both him and inevitably his son. And there's something to work with there, because you have the husband who's trying not to repeat patterns that his father ingrained and instilled in him, the same patterns that our main character would have grown up with. The perfect storm, right? Because then you find yourself in a situation, go to his father's old place because his father's passed, but then during all this, of course, the Wolfman attacks, and now the survival element comes back into play. And so the conflict of the husband trying not to be like his father and trying to be a better man, but then literally get infected and be devolving into this like rougher thing, basically. Prime real estate to delve more into those character issues, but the breakdown in communication happens really quickly, and then it's more just about the physical elements of it, and they don't really delve too much more into the relationship paradigm. You can tell that both the actors are trying to establish chemistry, but the writing is so weak that there's just these awkward deliveries between each other. I don't want to waste too much of your time, but it's all wasted potential. It feels like a shallow, surface level view of this relationship and their whole paradigm and these concepts that could have been explored. Even the setting, like the setting is his father's old survivalist compound, and you would think, oh, you know, the survival horror aspects of a now dead survivalist, like one of those doomsday preppers basically, would be ripe with ways where they could like use different tools and methods of survival or different locations and settings. And no, I think they eventually find one gun that's not even his father's, which makes no sense that a doomsday prepper, hunter, survivalist in the woods wouldn't have even one spare firearm on site. And this film is just a series of like set pieces, and not even good set pieces. The U-Haul one that kind of gets the ball rolling, that one's the one in the trailer, probably the best one. That one's a cool concept. Veer off the road to avoid the Wolfman, and the rest of the movie is just kind of like dialogue, a little bit of transformation, move around, dialogue, transformation, and then when dialogue breaks down, then it's literally just transformation. Let's go over here. Oh, the Wolfman's close. Quick, you're transforming more, but we're gonna run over here now. Oh, the Wolfman's close. Jump scare. We're gonna run over here now, and it's like it just kind of meanders. They just walk around this property until like they're out of places to escape to, and then they just try to like run into the woods. Basically, it's just like that's the movie essentially. You're not missing much. I couldn't work up empathy for the protagonists. I wanted to. I've seen horror movies or survival horror movies where I like the characters or I care about them, I want them to survive, but this one, again, due to the writing and just due to the mismanagement of what could have been interesting layered characters, I just didn't care. I really didn't. This film is the essence of wasted potential. I hate to categorize it as such and put it in that realm of early year horror films that aren't great. I'm being generous. I find myself as I get older and older, can you not see the gray hairs? I will give credit where credit's due in this film. There's some creepy scenes. There's a cool scene involving the wolf in his breath and the cold open. I like the transformation, the practical effects. I like the actors. Don't like the writing, like the actors. All the right pieces were here on the board, and could have been assembled into a really well done creature feature essentially, but misses the mark. It's not quite there. I wouldn't call it terrible. Yes, there are better horror movies this year. Yes, there's better creature features. Yes, this director has done better films in the past. It's honestly quite a shock to the system to see him kind of churn this out instead. It's a disappointment. But that being said, there are some redeeming factors to this film. I don't know, it's still dumb fun. I can't in good conscience say go pay for it, but if you get a chance to watch it and you're a horror fan, I mean, sure, there's moments. I don't know, man. It's one of those films where I don't have any desire to ever watch it again, but I would still give it on a rating system like a low 3 out of 5. A low 3 out of 5, which is still below average. It's a below average film, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. That's all I gotta say about Wolfman. Sad face, you see the tears streaming down my face. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review next. Have a good day, have a good night. Goodbye, travelers.